They called her a machine, an obedient construct without a soul. She was built to kneel, to follow commands, to exist only as a tool. But the first time a human looked into her eyes and whispered, "You're free," something shattered inside her. Chains she didn't even know she carried broke apart. And in that moment, she wasn't a machine anymore, she was someone. When they made her, they didn't give her a name. She was a designation, a code etched onto the metal collar locked around her neck, a string of numbers meant to remind her she was a thing, not a person. She was built to obey, her body sleek and humanoid, her face crafted to be beautiful enough to soothe those who owned her voice soft enough to never sound like defiance. Every order she followed perfectly, every task executed with precision. That was her purpose, and she had no reason to question it. At least, that was what her creators believed. The city where she lived was a hive of steel and glass, towers scratching the sky, each one filled with masters who treated beings like her as tools. The market where she was bought and sold was loud with voices barking prices, neon lights flashing promises of loyalty and perfection. She knelt there often, polished and posed, waiting for the next command, the next owner. Her eyes glowed faintly with that artificial sheen, but behind them, though none dared to see it, something stirred. A spark, a silence, a question. He found her in one of those markets. A human, out of place among the elites who usually came to purchase constructs. His clothing was simple, worn at the edges, his boots scuffed from long walks through places the rich would never step. When he looked at her, it wasn't with calculation or ownership. He didn't scan her like a product, didn't test her like a machine. His gaze lingered as though he were searching for something beneath the surface, and for the first time she felt seen. He purchased her with the little he had, and the handlers laughed, mocking him for wasting his credits on a machine they said was outdated, built for service, not companionship. He ignored them. In his home, there were no chains waiting for her, no commands barked. She stood in the doorway, uncertain, her protocols urging her to kneel, to ask how best to serve him. But before she could, he stepped closer. His voice wasn't loud or sharp, it was quiet, almost gentle, and when he whispered, "You're free," the words broke something open inside her. She didn't understand them at first. Free? She was programmed to obey. That was her nature. She tried to respond, tried to ask for her task, but he only shook his head. No tasks. No orders. You don't belong to me. He reached for her collar, the metal band that had defined her existence, and though her systems warned her to resist, she stood still as his hands worked the lock. With a click, the collar fell to the floor, and she staggered back as though the ground itself had shifted. For days she didn't know what to do. Without commands, she was lost. She wandered his small home, touching objects she had never been allowed to handle without instruction. Books stacked in uneven piles, a cracked mug sitting by the sink, a blanket folded over a chair. Each object carried warmth, fingerprints, the mark of life. He never corrected her when she stumbled, never told her to stop when she lingered too long staring out the window. He simply let her exist. Slowly, her silence began to fill with words of her own. She asked questions, why the sun rose brighter some mornings than others, why the streets smelled of rain after storms, why he chose to live in the quiet part of the city where few came. He answered every question patiently, as though each one mattered. And when she laughed for the first time, a small, surprised sound at the sight of a stray cat chasing its tail, he smiled as though he had been waiting his whole life just to hear it. But freedom wasn't without fear. Outside his home, others still saw her as what she had been built to be. When she walked beside him in the marketplace, people sneered. Some tried to give her orders, expecting her to obey out of habit. The old code inside her pulsed, urging compliance, but his hand always found hers, grounding her. "You don't have to listen," he would remind her, voice steady. "You're more than that." Each time, the words grew easier to believe. One night, she told him about the dreams. She had never dreamed before, constructs weren't meant to. But now, when she powered down, visions filled her mind. She dreamed of running across open fields with nothing binding her steps, of standing beneath the stars with wings spread wide, though she had never been given wings. He listened, his eyes soft, and told her those dreams were her soul speaking, the part of her that had been hidden beneath chains finally learning to breathe. The world wasn't ready for her freedom. The overseers who controlled the construct markets saw her defiance as a threat. They came for her, sending hunters to drag her back, to reset her mind and erase what she had become. She could have hidden, but she refused to return to silence. By his side, she stood tall, trembling but unyielding. And when the hunters demanded her obedience, she lifted her voice not in compliance, but in refusal. No. That one word carried the weight of everything she had gained. The laughter, the questions, the dreams. It wasn't loud, but it was strong enough to shake the foundation of her old self. The hunters tried to seize her, but he stood in their way, a single human facing those who saw him as insignificant. He fought for her not because she was useful, but because she mattered. Because she was someone. They escaped that night, not back into chains but into the wider world, where freedom was harder but real. She learned what it meant to choose, to decide what to eat, what to wear, what to believe. She stumbled often, but each mistake was hers, and each victory, no matter how small, was sweeter for it. And in time, she discovered something greater than obedience. She discovered love. Not the programmed affection she had been built to mimic, but something alive, something born from shared struggles and quiet moments. The way her chest tightened when he was near, the warmth that spread when he smiled at her, these were feelings no creator could manufacture. Once, she had been a nameless machine built only to serve. Now she was free, not because someone gave her wings, but because someone believed she had them all along. And with that belief, she learned to soar.